Grocery shopping got weird fast. A lot of people still walk into a store thinking the biggest chain automatically has the lowest price, but that is not how the math works anymore. Food at home prices were still up year over year in early 2026, and one of the clearest ways to fight that is to stop shopping by reputation and start shopping by category. This video breaks down 15 everyday items that came in cheaper at Aldi than Walmart in a recent side-by-side comparison, why that happened, and how to use that pattern without fooling yourself on the items where Walmart still wins. Aldi has a business model built for this fight. The chain says more than 90% of what it sells is made up of Aldi-exclusive brands, and it is still expanding hard, with plans to open more than 180 new stores in 2026. Walmart, of course, is still the giant in the room, with more than 10,800 stores and clubs globally and around 280 million weekly customers and members. And Walmart says its prices are on average 10 to 25% lower than competitors. That is exactly why this topic matters. When a smaller chain built around fewer choices, more private label, and tighter operations can still undercut the giant on a real grocery basket, that is not a fluke people should ignore. In one May 2025 same market comparison in Franklin, Tennessee, Aldi came in cheaper on 24 of 29 items, and the whole basket landed at $94.21 versus $105.45 at Walmart. Walmart also deserves a fair warning before we get into the list, because lazy price videos skip this part. Walmart does not lose every aisle. In current online listings, I found examples where Walmart was lower on basics like whole milk and white sandwich bread. That does not kill the Aldi story. It makes it more believable. Serious shoppers do not marry a store. They marry the numbers. So think of the next 15 items as categories where Aldi has shown real strength in a controlled comparison, not as a promise that every zip code and every week will look the same. Aldi starts with chicken, because this is one of those categories where people assume the supercenter should crush everyone else. In that Franklin comparison, Aldi chicken was $3.49 a pound, while Walmart came in at $4.64 a pound. That gap is big enough to matter on one family dinner, and it really matters when chicken is the fallback protein in a tight budget house. This is where the Aldi model becomes brutally simple. If a store keeps fewer versions on the shelf, leans harder on store brand sourcing, and avoids turning every shopping trip into a giant general merchandise detour, it can keep pressure on a basic protein that ends up in tacos, pasta, salads, soup, and meal prep containers all week. The controversial part is that people often think convenience equals savings. It does not. A store can be convenient and still be the place where a quiet extra dollar per pound slips past you because you were distracted by everything else in the building. Chicken is not glamorous, but it is one of the clearest examples of how a grocery bill gets won or lost. Aldi does it again with ground beef, and this one cuts straight into another shopping myth. The common belief is that a bigger retailer with more buying power should dominate meat pricing. Yet in the same comparison, Aldi ground beef was $4.69 a pound, while Walmart was $5.75 a pound. That is more than a minor rounding error. That is the kind of spread that changes whether chili night, burger night, or taco night feels normal or expensive. It also exposes one of the oldest retail tricks in the book, making shoppers compare stores by brand image instead of by actual category. Walmart wins a lot of battles in the public mind because it is everywhere, because it is huge, and because it has spent decades training people to think low price the second they hear the name. But meat is where assumptions need to shut up and unit prices need to talk. Ground beef is not a niche organic luxury item. It is as everyday as it gets. When Aldi beats Walmart there, it tells you the discount formula is not just about weird imported cheese or random freezer finds. It is hitting the center of the American dinner plate. Aldi also undercut Walmart on almond milk, and that matters because plant-based basics have a nasty habit of carrying fake, healthy tax pricing. In the Franklin comparison, Aldi sold 64 fluid ounces for $2.29, while Walmart was at $2.63 for the same size. That is not the biggest gap on the list, but it tells a useful story. A lot of shoppers assume alternative milks are one of those categories where the discounter will lag, either on price, on taste, or on shelf stability. But this is exactly the kind of private label product where Aldi's structure can work well. It is standardized, it is high turn, it is easy to compare. And it is the kind of item that gets tossed into carts by people who are not trying to make a lifestyle statement at all. They just need something for coffee, cereal, smoothies, or lactose issues. The reason many people miss savings like this is boring but real. They remember the headline price of a big cart, not the pattern inside it. Save 34 cents here, another dollar there, and suddenly the store people swore was basically the same is not the same at all. Aldi beat Walmart on butter in that comparison too, with a 4-stick pack at $3.75 versus $3.96 at Walmart. And butter is sneaky because a lot of people treat it like a fixed price item. They assume eggs fluctuate, produce fluctuates, beef fluctuates, but butter is just butter. Not true. Butter is one of those staples that quietly turns into a budget leak because it sits inside everything. Toast, baking, sauces, mashed potatoes, pancakes, grilled cheese, holiday cooking. When the staple feeds into a dozen other foods, even a 21-cent difference matters more than it looks. The bigger point is that Aldi tends to be strongest when the product is basic, high volume, and not dependent on shoppers wanting 10 versions side by side. Walmart's giant assortment can feel like value, but choice and value are not the same thing. Sometimes extra choice is just clutter with fluorescent lighting. And yes, current live pricing can swing the other way on some staples, which is exactly why smart shoppers should keep checking. But in the structured same market comparison, butter still landed in Aldi's column. Aldi stayed ahead on sour cream too, at $1.85 for 16 ounces versus $1.97 at Walmart in the comparison basket. This is the kind of win people laugh off because the gap looks tiny. That is a mistake. Grocery budgets are not usually wrecked by one outrageous item. They get chipped apart by 1,000 little places where shoppers shrug and say, "Close enough." Sour cream is the perfect example. It lands next to tacos, baked potatoes, dips, chili, burrito bowls, casseroles, and party trays. It is a supporting actor that shows up all the time. The controversy here is not the price gap itself. It is the fact that shoppers are trained to ignore these tiny differences until they stack into something real. Walmart is very good at selling the feeling of broad low price. Aldi is very good at stripping out the theater and asking a ruder question. What are you actually paying on the item in front of you right now? That question is less exciting. It is also how people keep money in their account. Aldi gets even more interesting on shredded cheddar cheese because this is where package size starts lying to people. In the comparison, Aldi sold 12 ounces for $2.79, while Walmart sold 8 ounces for $1.97. If you only stare at the sticker, Walmart looks cheaper. But the ounce math told the real story. About 23 cents per ounce at Aldi versus about 25 cents per ounce at Walmart. This is one of the oldest grocery traps around. A lower shelf price is not the same thing as a lower price. Stores know shoppers are tired, moving fast, wrangling kids, or trying to get out before dinner. That is why unit pricing matters so much on cheese, cereal, coffee, paper goods, snacks, and almost anything sold in different bag sizes. Shredded cheese is a classic looks fine item that turns expensive when you stop comparing like a human and start comparing like a calculator. Also, cheese has a way of disappearing fast. A taco night becomes nachos. Nachos become omelets. Omelets become baked pasta. The bag is gone before you notice the price per ounce was working against you. Aldi won here because the bigger bag was still the better deal. Aldi also edged Walmart on ice cream. And yes, the difference was small. $2.95 for 1.5 quarts at Aldi versus $2.97 at Walmart. That sounds almost silly until you understand why it matters. Ice cream is one of those categories where price is often used as a mood signal. Cheap ice cream feels suspicious. Fancy ice cream feels like quality. A lot of shoppers pay more than they need to because dessert is sold emotionally, not logically. But when the package size is the same and the price is basically a dead heat with Aldi still slightly lower, the real lesson is not run to Aldi for a 2-cent victory. The lesson is that Aldi is not only winning on dry goods and produce, it is hanging right there on comfort food too. That matters because a low-price store only works for people if it can cover real life, not just the moral high ground of rice and spinach. Real life includes something cold in the freezer on a rough weeknight. The stores that keep budgets intact are the ones that win on basics without making life feel stripped down and joyless. Aldi comes in cheaper on apples, and bagged fruit is one of the places where people get fooled by habit more than anything else. In the side-by-side comparison, Aldi sold a 3-pound bag of Gala apples for $2.99, while Walmart was $3.84 for the same weight. That is a meaningful jump for something many households buy again and again. Apples are not a one-time holiday purchase. They are lunchbox food, snack food, breakfast food, baking food, and the "at least there is fruit in the house" purchase. They are also one of the cleanest tests of produce value because a bag is a bag. You are not comparing some bizarre gourmet add-on. You are comparing a basic fruit sold by the same simple weight. The bigger story is that produce is where many shoppers still distrust discount chains. They assume cheaper means softer, older, or more hit or miss. Sometimes produce quality does vary by location, and that is fair to say. But price prejudice is real too. People will pay more at a giant retailer because it feels safer, even when the numbers say otherwise. The recent comparison leaned clearly toward Aldi here, and even some current live listings still show Aldi highly competitive on bagged apples. Aldi stays ahead on oranges too, with a 3-pound bag of mandarins at $3.59 versus $3.97 at Walmart in the comparison. This is another quiet but useful category because citrus often gets treated like background produce. People focus on meat, cereal, eggs, and paper towels, then they toss fruit in the cart without much thought. That is exactly why it matters. The budget damage happens fastest on the things you stop thinking about. Mandarin oranges are a perfect example because they are sold as convenience fruit without looking like a convenience product. No chopping, no prep, no dish, just peel and eat. That means households with kids, commuters, and people trying to eat something better than chips will buy them often. When Aldi comes in cheaper on something this every day, it reveals what the store is really doing well. Taking products that move fast and trimming the extra markup that sneaks in when shoppers are too busy to compare. The controversial truth is that many people who say they are saving money at a big store are actually paying for the comfort of not changing stores, not for lower prices on the item itself. Aldi wins on bananas by only a penny a pound in the comparison, with bananas at 73 cents a pound versus 74 cents at Walmart. That sounds so tiny it almost feels insulting to mention, but this is exactly why bananas deserve a place in the script. Bananas expose how shoppers think. If the gap is big, people notice. If the gap is small, they stop caring. But groceries are built from a lot of small wins, not just a few dramatic ones. Bananas also have another advantage as a comparison item. Almost everybody understands them. They are a common benchmark produce item, and they move in huge volume. When Aldi still sneaks out even a small win on a standard benchmark product, it supports the broader pattern. It also reminds people not to confuse a tiny difference with an irrelevant difference. If 10 or 12 items in a cart are each a little cheaper, the total becomes very real, very fast. A penny a pound on bananas will not change your life. The habit of checking the unexciting basics absolutely can. And that is the real reason a lot of households feel broke in the checkout line without being able to point to a single outrageous purchase. Aldi beats Walmart on bell peppers by a much clearer margin, and produce multi-packs are where visual tricks can really mess with shoppers. The comparison showed Aldi at $2.49 for a 3-pack of mixed bell peppers, while Walmart was $2.96 for the same kind of pack. That difference is useful because peppers are one of those foods that make a cheap meal look less cheap. They go into stir-fries, fajitas, omelets, sandwiches, sheet pan dinners, salads, pasta, and snack trays. People buy them when they are trying to cook at home instead of ordering out, which means pepper pricing matters more than it looks. Multi-packs are also classic eye-level traps. A colorful 3-pack looks like a standard product, but pricing can vary enough that shoppers who never stop to compare just accept whatever is in front of them. Aldi's advantage here fits the broader pattern from the Franklin basket. Bagged and bundled produce was one of its strongest zones. That is bad news for the belief that Walmart automatically owns the low-price produce conversation. It does not. Not consistently. Not when you actually break down the cart. Aldi edges Walmart on spinach by unit price And this is one more place where package size can fool people. Aldi's 8-ounce bag was $1.55, while Walmart's 10-ounce bag was $1.98. On a per-ounce basis, Aldi was about 19 cents and Walmart was about 20 cents. Again, not dramatic, but real. Spinach is the kind of item that gets sold with a halo around it. People buy it because they are trying to be healthier, and stores know health-motivated shoppers can get sloppy with price because they feel virtuous already. That is why the unit math matters so much. The healthy choice is not automatically the smart money choice. Aldi's edge here also says something important about how it competes. It is not always trying to beat Walmart by some giant splashy amount. Sometimes it is just trimming off enough routine items to pull the total cart lower. If your breakfast smoothies, lunchtime salads, pasta add-ins, and quick sautés all lean on ingredients like spinach, shaving a bit off the price each time matters more than people think. Aldi comes in lower on chicken broth too, at $1.85 for 32 ounces versus $1.98 at Walmart. This might be the most ignored item on the whole list. Nobody brags about finding cheaper broth. Nobody tells friends they saved 13 cents on soup base. But broth sneaks into everything. Rice, soup, gravy, braised meat, pan sauces, stuffing, slow cooker meals, weeknight rescue dinners. It is a pantry builder item, and pantry builder items are where a store earns trust over time. The real controversy is that people love to judge stores by flashy front-of-store produce or by a handful of billboard staples, while the real grocery battle happens in these support items that make home cooking possible. If your store is consistently making the building blocks cheaper, it is helping more than the store that wins one noisy headline item and loses the stuff that shows up all month. Aldi winning on broth is a quiet sign that its lower price pattern reaches past obvious discount store stereotypes and into the boring ingredients that make home-cooked food possible. Aldi technically wins on white rice, but only if you compare it the right way. In the comparison, Aldi's 3-pound bag cost $2.65, while Walmart's 2-pound bag cost $1.77. If you stop there, Walmart looks cheaper, but that is sloppy shopping. Per pound, Aldi was about 88 cents and Walmart was about 89 cents. Barely different, yes. Still cheaper, yes. Rice deserves a place on this list because it exposes one of the most common mental shortcuts in grocery shopping. Shoppers remember total package price more than value. Stores know this. That is why so many products are sold in awkward sizes that make fast comparisons annoying. Rice also matters because it is one of the most universal stretch ingredients in a budget kitchen. It turns leftovers into meals. It pads out bowls, beans, stir-fries, curries, casseroles, and meal prep containers. When a store gives you slightly more value on a staple like rice, it is not just saving pennies. It is supporting cheaper meals downstream. That is why smart grocery shopping is often less about dramatic coupon heroics and more about refusing to let packaging play mind games with you. Aldi beats Walmart on black beans too, and this is another tiny gap that matters because it repeats. Aldi's 15.5-ounce can was 85 cents, while Walmart's matching can was 86 cents. 1 penny, that is it. So why mention it? Because black beans tell the truth about pantry economics. A lot of affordable cooking depends on shelf-stable protein support. Beans, rice, broth, pasta sauce, canned tomatoes, oats, flour, peanut butter. The win is not any one can. The win is building an entire pantry where the base ingredients are just a touch cheaper, again and again. This is also where Aldi's private label machine shines. Canned beans are not an aisle where most shoppers need 17 flavor stories and 6 premium lifestyle labels. They need a can that works. When the product is that standard, the store that strips away excess branding and shelf clutter has a real chance to beat the giant. That is the uncomfortable part for people who think the biggest retailer must have the best math on every generic pantry staple. Sometimes scale wins, sometimes simplicity wins. On black beans, even by a hair, Aldi had the better number in the controlled comparison. Aldi also makes the larger point clearer than a lot of shoppers want to admit. The cheapest store is not always the one with the biggest parking lot, the broadest assortment, or the loudest reputation. Consumer Reports' 2026 pricing study, as summarized by Supermarket News, found Aldi about 8.3% cheaper than Walmart overall in its basket work. That does not mean Aldi wins on everything. It does mean the idea of Walmart as the automatic king of low grocery prices is outdated. The reason so many people miss this is psychological. Walmart feels like value because it combines food with everything else. You can buy socks, motor oil, school glue, paper plates, and a rotisserie chicken in one trip. That feels efficient, and sometimes it is. But efficiency and item-level cheapness are not identical. One store can save you time, while another saves you more money. Knowing the difference is where real grocery strategy starts. Walmart still matters in this story because it keeps the lesson honest. It is huge, it is aggressive on price, and in live listings it still showed lower prices than Aldi on some basics I checked, including whole milk and white bread. That means the smartest takeaway is not blind loyalty to Aldi. It is category loyalty. Go where chicken, ground beef, produce bags, pantry builders, and some dairy are strongest. Keep checking unit price. Watch package size. And stop letting store identity do the thinking for you. A lot of people are not overpaying because they are reckless. They are overpaying because they are busy. And busy shoppers get sold convenience stories instead of math. Aldi leaves the clearest pattern on this list. Chicken, ground beef, almond milk, butter in that comparison, sour cream, cheddar by unit price, ice cream, apples, oranges, bananas, bell peppers, spinach, chicken broth, white rice by unit price, and black beans all landed lower than Walmart in the same market basket. That does not mean every Aldi beats every Walmart every day. It means the lazy assumption that the biggest low-price brand automatically wins the grocery fight is not good enough anymore. If you remember anything from this video, remember these 3 things. Check the unit price, not just the sticker. Compare by category, not by store loyalty. And pay attention to the boring staples because that is where grocery budgets usually bleed out. If this helped, like the video, comment with the one item you still think Walmart wins most often, and share this with somebody who swears they already know the cheapest store without ever checking the cart.